Reimagine education. Awaken your potential. At Advire, we bring together leading educators and visionaries to transform how we learn. Our courses and practices bridge ancient wisdom with modern insights, empowering you to reshape your world. With our 3 pillars, the arts, self, and nature, we invite you to explore a growing library. 10,000 hours and more of courses and practices, plus live interactive sessions with teachers and participants. From science and ecology, history and mythology and beyond, our approach picks up what traditional education has forgotten and inspires you to connect with and envision a more beautiful world. Experience a learning journey that adapts to you, whether self-paced or interactive, online or in a community. Advire is your gateway to a more curious, intelligent and connected life. Join us at Advire. Transform your world today.
Human beings like to name things, and we give names and we give names, and that's how we have names for things. But in my mind, I was saying, but you know what? So some of my indigenous elders say, the earth gave us our language. The earth gave us our language. And so some things give us their names. We don't name them. They tell us who they are, right? And so just that as a very small example of a very big shift in mindset, right? You know, the anthropocentric point of view that we are the narrators of the entire earth story. So I feel like, you know, that is going to get very thoroughly interrupted here. It is if you're paying attention, and it's only going to become more so, right? And so I really appreciated that when you say other people are in collaboration with me, and so and then you said maybe other than human. So that's how I feel. I feel like all of the rest of the life, and this is where I hope that we can find some peace and some solace. And so I invite those who are listening here to, let's just take a breath together and inhale and exhale. Get out of the mind for a second and inhale and exhale. And so, you know, all the rest of the life knows how to live. It really does know how to live, and it knows how to thrive. And so some of the solutions, of course, are going to come from all the rest of the life. So when we come to the end of our own resource as human beings, that's not the end. That doesn't mean it's the end. That means that we might have to open ourselves, humble ourselves, maybe, but also open ourselves to the life around us. And when I think about like in some indigenous histories, we have a long history, much longer than Western science acknowledges. And so you might hear indigenous people say this is the 5th world or the 6th world. Well, what is that implying? That's implying we've lost some worlds previous to now. And so we have some information about the loss of world. And so my clan grandfather was saying, you know, when we lost the world to the flood, so many accounts of the Great Flood, it wasn't human ingenuity that saved us. It was Dragonfly. Dragonfly came and told the people. So how does Dragonfly tell anybody? This means, for me, this means that we have to, it would be good if we haven't already to begin to reconnect to that very broad spectrum of ways of knowing that the human being has. It's not just intellect. Intellect is necessary, but it keeps out a lot of other things. And so the hallmark of indigenous people, right, is they have ways of knowing with the song, with the dance, with fasting, with visioning, you know, these kinds of methodologies, if you will, ceremonial technologies. And so those expand perception in such a way where Dragonfly can come and tell the people, look, if you get inside these giant hollow reeds, you might be able to make it, because that floodwater rose. And so some human beings did get in those reeds and the water rose, but it didn't go over the top. It only rose so high and then it subsided. And those human beings who got into the hollow reed, they emerged, and they were the ones who began the next world. And so I've been meditating a lot on that, and I've been and where it has led me, one, it's like I want to be able to hear Dragonfly. How is my acumen for being able to perceive the wisdom and input from all of the wise life around me that knows how to live, right? But the other place it's led me, and we talked about this as we were preparing for this conversation, is to say, how can my life serve those who will emerge from the hollow reed? And what that has done for me is it takes me out of myself. It takes me out of this place of how am I going to make it? Should I be storing canned foods and rifles and, I don't know, whatever all that is? It takes me out of that mindset. I mean, I'm not really prone to that mindset, but let's say, and instead it's like, what's really going to serve? Like if you are a brand new human being stepping out into complete newness, what's going to serve you? And for me, it's the cleaning up of relationships. I want I want I want those who emerge to not have to keep contending with the same bitternesses, the same harrowing hurt, the scalding hurts that we have had. And so a lot of my work right now is really dedicated towards healing. And part of that work is really actively seeking what I call unlikely allies. Unlikely allies. And I won't go into the whole detail, but I'll say right now, that's really like has been working with nuns lately. It's one aspect of this as an example, and helping these nuns understand what the doctrine of discovery did to the world and to this continent and to indigenous peoples by saying that there any lands that the explorers came upon could be confiscated and any peoples could be taken into perpetual slavery. That was a mandate that went out from the church and empire together to the explorers, right? And so that became like the rule. And so to have the nuns now come forward after doing several years of work and say, we will be complicit no more with the doctrine of discovery. I can't tell you, like that is some of the most profound work for me. And it has to do with that idea that those who emerge from the hollow reed are not going to have to contend with that particular, it's beyond wound. I call it scalding, the scalding of the soul that took place with that particular construct. So for me, I'm always looking for how do we get there? And for me, a lot of time that does happen through ceremony and ritual, but also a lot of listening and conversation.
Thank you.
Wanting to just also honor that and just receive that for a moment. Yeah. I love that you're naming these unlikely allies. I will say, like, for me, that the doctrine of discovery was my breaking point, to realize that no acknowledgement had ever been done for what it unleashed on the world. And yeah, I'm wondering if from this place, maybe do we want to begin to weave maybe a practice from here? I feel like it's already taken us to a place of feeling. Which is the best place to be doing ritual from. Yeah, what do you think, Pat?
So I'll add before we move into this place of ritual, of practice, that one thing that I have been saying for a while, and actually I remember saying it at an Advaya event. I remember we were in London and the event took place in the round because I remember pacing round and round. Felt like I was in a boxing ring or something. But I said it there, but I'll say it again, and that is, Einstein said you cannot prepare for peace and war at the same time. And I said, no, I think that's exactly what has to happen. So I feel like as a woman who stands for life and for earth above everything else, my war, if you will, is to maintain that stand in the face of those who are ready to make this planet disposable. They're ready to strip her of everything and blast off into space somewhere so they can continue profit making somewhere else. I mean, this is real. Okay, it's pretty wild. But so my stand is no. I have an accountability to Earth, so that's my war. Just to be clear. And then, but at the same time, as Earth changes keep coming, including the waters, as people begin to realize, wait, we are not the masters of the universe. We are not the masters of Earth, and this humility begins to, have to be held in some way. I have to be working for peace. I have to be ready to receive my former adversaries. So for Indigenous people, I was at another ceremony to receive the nuns. That is deep, deep, deep work. But it is the work of a spiritual warrior to stand firm for the principles of life and to be able to have the heart to receive the former adversary, the former wounders. So I want to just name that, knowing where we're going to move into practice here.
I'll weave with some of the things we've spoken about before, but kind of wanting people to also be a bit in a reflective space to bridge over. And I'm just wanting to call to, as you say, like your vision, your commitment. And I want to invite folks to notice, what is that for you? What is it that when you go out into the world or when you wake up, you say to yourself, this is who I'm in service to. This is why I'm in service. What is that yes that keeps you taking each forward step? And maybe you have like a full articulation of what that might be in terms of your purpose, your destiny, your gifting, the gift that you're here to be. And then if you have a sense of that, I'd invite you to notice, what is the fullness that it calls you to step into? What is that place that is just beyond what your training has taught you to believe, or what your training has taught you is the boundary space where this is in, that is out. These people are in, those people are out. This way of moving, this way of living is in, that is just out of reach. For me, for example, as I was speaking to earlier, this place of claiming, naming, affirming, declaring every day that I dare to believe that as long as there is communion, all things will work out for the good. For me, that has often felt just out of reach, because that is not the truth, or the truth of life that I actually grew up within, which is why I declare it every day, so that I can keep stepping towards it, so that I can keep reaching for it, even when pain might advise differently, right? So what is that for you? That place that pain might advise differently, but you still in alignment with that vision, with that service, with that commitment you reach for.
Yeah, and I guess some other places that I think about as we move into this space is what are the things that you may know that prevent you from being able to participate with the unlikely ally, right? And with that, I'm also thinking of a prayer that I use sometimes, which is, help me to set aside everything I think I know about X, that I can be open to a new experience, which is kind of what happened with Land Reunion. It's like, we think we're doing all this justice work or whatever, but really all of a sudden I saw Mother Earth's strategy is actually moving through us. She knows us so well that she can move through even our bizarre little mechanisms of law and economy. So, how willing and what stands in the way of our willingness for that kind of opening at this moment,
When we were preparing for this, we talked about those places that are standing in the way as like rigidified stories, myths and narrative stories that we tell ourselves that feel hardened, that feel calcified, that have taken on that form of coloniality that is equally hard. And we were weaving, noticing how water, through simply consistent movement, even consistent. In some of my traditions, we invoke water and talk about like water's capacity to bring together what needs to be brought together and to separate what needs to be separated. And so noticing those places that are hard, calcified, maybe notice just one for now that you might invoke river. You might invoke water to bring that medicine of separating what needs to be separated, of softening, and then of bringing back the things that need to be brought back together. One thing I would add to just this invitation to practice is there's a part in it that invites you to approach water somewhere where you are. If you're able to get to a river, even better. And you might want to write down what these calcified, hardened stories are that prevent you from seeing, from even considering unlikely allies. And unlikely allies might be,
Find out more on advaya.life.